All right. Well, this is exciting. I just told you we had an amazing prep call leading up to this panel, and I know you have a lot of very cool things to tell us. I'm going to dive right in.
You bet.
First of all, can you give the audience an overview, because not everyone might know Row, an overview of Row's journey and focus on recent development and how this brand has evolved over time?
Sure. So our business started in 2017 as Roman, and so the business initially was a telemedicine service highly focused on the treatment of one condition, erectile dysfunction, and only offering services in 4 states. Since then, we've evolved into Row, which is a broad telemedicine platform that offers treatment for a range of healthcare conditions in all 50 states, with 4 main principal areas of focus: sexual health, weight management, dermatology, and fertility. And so I think for us in this time period, as we've gone from this very focused business, very focused brand, real kind of a laser lock focus on one consumer demographic, to a platform that now can service really almost all Americans, we've really had to evolve the brand, broaden it, and not only change how we position the brand in our creative, but the channels and tactics we use to go broader. And so out of home through that journey over the last 5 and 6 years has been a really, really incredible tool in facilitating that transition to the broader brand that Row is today.
Yeah, you do use a lot of out-of-home. I see it. I travel through Penn Station, New York, and I see your campaigns all the time, and I love them. They're very, very cool things. And you use a lot of different forms of out-of-home. As your brand has matured, how has your approach to out-of-home matured? And what role has it played in the different stages?
Yeah, I think to start, a lot of what we did with out-of-home was really just establish that we were there, that we existed. And so, in the early days, we really used it as something to announce a new product line, announce a new offering, maybe have some surround sound elements along with a broader out-of-home TV kind of top of funnel push. Now it's really more around actually making a statement. So we find that the creative format is unparalleled in being able to really draw out a strong creative story, create an asset that might live beyond its walls, for something that people will take a photo of, share, that will drive discussion and commentary in a way that other mediums really don't. And so really the evolution has moved less from just kind of being there to plus up other channels, but really standing as a statement on its own. And that's really where we've seen the most success with out-of-home in recent months and years.
So we've talked a lot about measurement today. We always do. Want to talk a little bit about effectiveness and measurement from your perspective. So how do you measure effectiveness, and how has your media mix modeling contributed to understanding of the different channels?
Totally. Ultimately for us, there's no silver bullet. There's no one tool or service that will give us the answer as to how effective this creative was. So we try to combine as many methods as possible. So if it's an out-of-home format that's human level, so it's on the street, it's something that someone can interact with in a more direct way, we'll have a URL or a QR code or something that gives a pathway for someone to respond directly. We use media mix modeling and factor out-of-home into our broader media mix models with different channels. We'll do market lift tests and do really concentrated experimentation that way. But really, the answer, I think, is you've got to combine a lot of other tools and sources. And so I think in the same way as we think about other methods to layer on, I know there are probably many people in this room and at this conference that are thinking thoughtfully on new ways to attribute out-of-home performance. Our general thought is the more the merrier. The more tools we can bring to bear to make an informed decision, we want to do that.
So again, I said I've been exposed to your brand a lot because I commute into New York City, and it's always good to share an example. So can you share an example of a particularly successful out-of-home campaign and its lasting impact, such as the weight loss campaign that I saw all over Penn Station?
Yes, that is the one we're going to show. And if we actually pull up on the screen, we've got some examples of a campaign that we recently ran in New York City. So this was through the transit system. So we, in the Q2 of 2023, we ran a really broad campaign across the city, predominantly focused in transit hubs. So when we think about the weight loss category, it's a very broad category. So tens of millions of prospective customers or consumers in the US are candidates for therapy with GLP-1s, the new class of weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy. I'm sure many of you have heard of these drugs in kind of popular culture. And so what we really wanted to do was twofold. One, cognizant of that scale, that broad applicability, make sure that we could have a media run that was very broad scaled, and really unmissable. And so transit in New York City has that incredible dynamic of having such incredible reach. And then within that, with our creative, be really bold and take a stance. And I think that at this time, and still today, there's an open debate and conversation around GLP-1 therapies, and are they fit for everyone? Should consumers be using them? If consumers are using them, are they diverting these therapies from other patients with other conditions? And so we really wanted to take a stance and say, this is an acceptable therapy for consumers. You shouldn't have any fear or judgment or concern around taking these medications. And so with that, we had this really bold creative. We wanted to show consumers actually injecting themselves with the medication. And so that was provocative. And so the combination of that combined with what we did in the subway system, it was very unmissable. So we combined station dominations in Grand Central and in Penn Station with these subway turnstile placements. So we wanted to do something that was kind of very much human level and street level, and again, unmissable. Everyone going through, I think, 9 major stations would see our ads on these turnstiles. And then we kind of had range across the system with these 2-sheet placements. And so all that combined, it left such an impression that after the campaign ended, we still saw plenty of kind of like follow-on coverage, right? So these are just a couple examples that I plucked from media articles written in the months after the campaign featuring some of the ads that were part of this campaign. We also drove social media commentary. It wasn't all positive. There was some negative reaction to the ads. I think some people thought that we were making a statement that they didn't agree with or didn't support, but we were okay with that. We were okay to take our stance, put a flag in the ground, and drive dialogue and conversation. I think that's part of the reason that, in hindsight, we viewed this campaign as a great success.
Well, it certainly worked. I mean, I paid attention to it. I'm a little bit of an out-of-home nerd, obviously, but I thought it was great. And I know others that did too. It started a lot of buzz, so congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
So again, and we talked about this on the call. I asked you quite a bit about this. You're sort of like the static versus the digital, and kind of, because you do so much out of home. Right. You said that your preference is for physical, human-centric out of home. How does this align with your overall advertising strategy as you're thinking beyond out of home? And are you exploring any digital or programmatic options for out of home?
Yeah, I'd say that we've skewed towards physical out of home because we love the kind of permanence and ownership of it, right? So we love the aspect that this is a placement that if someone is going on their daily routine and thinking about transit, for example, is one place that we tend to do more out of home advertising than other formats. It's part of one's daily commute. And so the fact that it's there, it's human level, it's at eye level, it's something that someone might see every single day, twice a day, when they go back and forth through a transit hub that's part of their commute. That leads both this sense of ownership of the placement. It drives very natural kind of repetition, and I think is more immersive in a way that not all programmatic formats can deliver on. All that said, we're not averse to exploring programmatic. We just really find that we found great success with this kind of ownership and the permanence and the ability to be in one place for an extended period of time. That drives a repetition that you may not get if you're, one of six advertisers in a digital rotation.
Yeah, no, it does have power to just be the one thing up there, right? But then it's very important where you are. So how do you decide on the locations and the creative approaches for your out-of-home placements? Are you targeting specific demographics or locations, and how are you doing it?
So I think one thing we're fortunate in is that our core offerings that we advertise, erectile dysfunction and weight management, they have target audiences in the tens of millions of consumers. So if you think about, if you're a luxury product like Rolex watches or something, you've got to be very, very targeted. The number of consumers that are actually in market for a Rolex or NetJets or some high-end service is very, very small. We're lucky in that 100 people are walking down the street, 30 of them very well could be good candidates for GLP-1s. 10 of them could be good candidates for ED. And so in that context, we skew towards broader placements, but we try to think of ones that might still then over-index with our consumer a bit more. So one example is for the GLP-1 space, we found great success in malls. So a lot of foot traffic, a lot of footfall in malls, but the consumer who's going to a mall probably skews more female and probably overlaps and maps, particularly if we hone in on certain malls, more tightly with our core consumer for the weight loss offering than others. So I think generally go broad, but when we can, try to plus up ever so slightly with placements where our consumers are more likely to be.
Well, you are doing it right, that's for sure. Still, it's not easy. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've been facing with out of home? And said in another way, how can we in this room do better for you?
Yeah, so I think one thing we've done is we're set up to be very nimble and act very quickly. I think that the one thing we'd love to do is experiment more with, again, impact over impressions. We really want to think about how our ads are going to drive extreme memorability, extreme recall, social sharing, and so that has a little bit to do with, of course, how we conceptualize the creative. It has a little bit to do with the placement as well, right? So where is the placement, or the unique aspects of that placement that allow for us to have the creative canvas to create a really memorable ad? So that's been, I think, something where the best successes only come in deep partnership with property owners, media owners, and that's an area where I think there's more that we can do, just collaborate. But I think the good thing is we're open to experimenting and trying and thinking a lot about new formats. And so I think the main kind of our ask for the industry is continue to come to us with great ideas. We want to entertain them, maybe beat them up a little bit, but land in a place where we can experiment and test and build great creative with you all.
That's a very interesting point. And by the way, something we hear from our brand council a lot. Come to us with the big ideas.
Yeah.
Because the agencies don't always bring it. So well, that's we shall.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about measurement here. Another topic du jour everywhere, but here as well, of course, has been AI. So I want to talk a little bit about emerging tech and specifically AI. How are you thinking about that when you're deploying advertising, and are you thinking about it for out of home specifically?
Not only are we thinking about it, we've put it to practice in recent months. So for our Roman business, we've just launched a new product called Roast Sparks. So Roast Sparks is a compounded medication that includes the main ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into a form factor that's dissolvable. So you put it under your tongue, it starts to act in as quickly as 15 minutes. It hits your bloodstream faster, lasts longer, and leads to better outcomes for patients. And so it's a new product. There's a lot of kind of tech value prop aspects to it. And so it really merited us doing some creative out of home to help launch and get it out to market. We put it to market in February, and in March we launched an out of home campaign in New York in Penn Station. And so these are 4 images here that ended up being core assets in the ensuing campaign. These are all generated through AI, so we've used a variety of different tools to do that. But one of the dynamics that was interesting with this particular product was our timeline from launching it to really going to market and putting assets into market was so tight that we didn't have time to do a photo shoot. So we did not have time to do the kind of classic produced live photo shoot. We had to use AI to quickly generate renders of the product that we then could put into interesting placements and ways. And so we generated a whole bunch of core assets, explored different ways to produce it, did some really neat animations, which we'll see in a second. And so these assets ended up then translating directly into what we then saw in this station domination in March. And you can see how they show up. They really manifest in bold ways. The colors, the resolution, everything really looks crisp, clean, and powerful. And so I think for us, the advantages were it helped us iterate very, very quickly on ideas and concepts. We could generate a whole bunch of different ideas, pick the ones we wanted, double down, and maybe do another wave of iteration on top of those, chuck the ones that we didn't. And then I think from a production standpoint, a buy like this has hundreds of different constituent ad placements, all with slightly different sizes and formats. So when you think about being able to reframe, reshape, resize, thinking, for example, like this image here of the pill in the mouth, right? Like there are many different ways you can cut and crop that. We can use AI to really quickly generate things that are going to be specific for a format or a aspect ratio or certain placement size. So, particularly for high complexity out-of-home executions, this really helps just improve our team's efficiency quite a bit. So, part kind of creative generation gains, part efficiency gains, and you can get really great assets like this. So, this is a video asset that we ran here. Let's see if we can get to play. There it is going. again, you can see that kind of animation there in the background. This was part of the video board that you would see as you go into Penn Station. But just really bold, really engaging, and we're really happy with how this campaign turned out.
And all AI generated?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, fascinating. And beautiful campaign. And again, another one I paid attention to, but yeah, I would have never known. Very cool. All right, for another topic du jour, privacy and cookie deprecation. I mean, the world has certainly not become any easier, and there are a lot of rules you need to think about these days, especially in California.
Right.
How does the current state of play of the situation we're in influence the media buy-in and how you use data?
Yeah, I think out-of-home has some incumbent advantages in that it's never really been dependent upon cookies and different type of digital tracking to target the media, optimize the media. And so there's kind of, you don't have that cookie dependency that you see in other channels. And so for us, there's the advantage of, one, we don't feel like we're losing anything that we had before around measurement and attribution. And then with respect to trafficking the media, again, this is unique to our style of execution, but we don't typically depend on cookie targeting or other factors to target the media. So it's kind of in a world where it's sitting kind of outside of the main impacts that you're seeing in channels like search and paid social around some of the kind of loss of cookie visibility. And so I think it's, in many ways an advantage of the medium is that it doesn't have that dependency. And I think it's a great thing for folks in this room as they're engaging with different stakeholders to really, I think, bring attention to, right? Like this is something that will live above and beyond any cookie blocker. There's no way to block a physical digital out-of-home ad that's in one's daily commute or on a highway, and that's an advantage in this day and age.
And for you too, I would imagine, again, because you can target so broadly.
Right.
So do you think that this is something that will shift dollars for you towards out of home, or?
I think it depends. I think some of the impacts of the kind of loss of cookie visibility, there are a ton of new privacy laws at the state level and the federal level that are going to impact the ability for marketers to use data. The real effects of those rules and regulations probably won't really start to hit for another 9 to 12 months. So I do think there's an opportunity for the industry to take advantage of that. And I do think the dollars probably will shift at that time, but we haven't yet felt the brunt of what we would expect to feel later on.
Yeah, it is fascinating times and definitely worth paying attention to. We hope for one federal law that will make it easier for all of us. But right now you have to think. Yeah,
there's a lot of work state by state, and certainly keeps our team on our toes and keeps our kind of regulatory and privacy folks on their toes too.
No, for sure. Some people are making money on it, I'm sure. Lawyers, if no one else.
No doubt.
All right, so in closing, we're asking everyone this question. What's the one thing you would like the audience to walk away with today as a result of having heard this really great presentation?
I think that the main thing I would say is, we want to focus on impact over impressions, right? So thinking about creative ideas, how can we come to bear with campaigns that are going to really grab a consumer's attention and be memorable? I think for us in this medium, memorability and impact matters the most. We care less about delivering a ton of tonnage. We really want to create experiences that elicit emotion, response, reaction. Part of that, of course, is on us. Can we tell a great story? But how can we also do that with the right medium? That comment, when it really sings, it's the combination of format and creative. So I think our ask is come to us with ideas. We're here. We're eager to learn. We'd love to be a kind of a pilot partner with you on different campaigns, new products, new offerings, and I think just continue to reach out and generate great ideas.
We sure as hell will.
Okay.
Thank you
so
much, Will.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Really great. Thanks.